questions for oral answer, understanding order 74. These are ordinary nature questions, and then we also have one question for written answer, understanding order 75, and we also do have one motion, that's the report of the Committee on Education, Science and Technology.
And we also expect to have some bills that will be considered on the floor of the House, and in total we have 4 bills that will be considered at second reading stage. And we have a look at just some of the questions that are expected to be considered on the floor of the House.
Question 336 will come from Mr. Joseph Nsanje, who is in Bavala, Member of Parliament, and is expected to ask the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation a question in 2 parts: when the government will rehabilitate Kabanze and Imbole dams in Bavala parliamentary constituency, and in part B, what the cause of the delay in rehabilitating the dams is.
And one of the questions is coming from Mufumbe Member of Parliament, Mr. Kamondo, and he wants to find out from the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. In first part of the question, he wants to know whether government has any plans to construct a play park in Mufumbe district, and B part of the question, he wants to know if so, when the plans will be implemented.
Question 338 will come from Mr. Clement Ndeleki, and his question will be directed to the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. There you have it in picture. We have the Speaker's delegation making its way into the House. We now take you to the floor of the House.
Honorable Members of Parliament, Madam Speaker. yeah. Order.
Tendency of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our right. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. We beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessings descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Matters of urgent public importance. I've got 3 members that have indicated: the Honorable Member for Chama North, Petauke Central, and Shiwangandu. The Honorable Member for Chama North, what is your urgent matter?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My matter of urgent public importance is directed to both the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development and the Minister of Labor and Social Security.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, thousands of council workers countrywide have gone without salaries ranging from 3 months to 6 months. Madam Speaker, notable local authorities are Mwangu Municipal Council, 6 months, Lusaka, 3 months, Kasama, 6 months, Chinsali, 6 months, Mazabuka, 3 months, just to mention but a few. Madam Speaker, this has caused a lot of untold sufferings among the workers and their families because they are not able to put food on their tables. Madam Speaker, these workers are also not able to access the 20% partial withdrawal from NAPSA because local authorities are not able to meet their statutory obligations. Madam Speaker, the local government plays a very critical role in implementing the decentralization agenda. Is the 2 ministers in order to keep quiet without updating the nation what measures this government is taking to avert workers subjected into such sufferings? I seek your indulgence, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. That matter is very important to the council workers. However, this issue, I think it started a long time. You mentioned 3 to 6 months. It should have been raised much earlier. So for this one, the Honorable Member for Chama North will either use maybe her honor the Vice President's question time tomorrow, or indeed maybe raise a question that can be addressed as soon as possible. The Honorable Member for Petauke Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Petauke this opportunity to raise the matter of urgent public importance. And the matter is directed to the Minister of Water. Madam Speaker, at the University of Zambia, our own university, where it accommodates all the students from all the constituencies in here. And even some of us who are here, we are the product of UNZA, coming from UNZA. Yes, the researcher. Madam Speaker, the University of Zambia right now, they don't have sanitation. I was there, and there are no any sanitation. The toilets are finished. No sewer, no what. Now is the Minister of Water, in order, who is also a member of Parliament for Munali, which UNZA is in, and in order to keep quiet and sit here, whilst our children at the University of Zambia, they don't have sanitation, And they have even, a lot of them, they are complaining with diarrhea and other diseases. Is it in order to keep quiet, Madam Speaker? I seek your guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, the Honorable Member for Petauke Central. The matter is serious. However, it does not qualify under the urgent matter of public importance because this particular matter is not widespread. It's only found at one place. Therefore, the Honorable Member for Petauke will find another means of bringing this matter to the House. The last one is the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. The matter I'm trying to raise, Madam Speaker, is directed to the Minister of Agriculture, who I can't see, or the Leader of Government Business.
You may go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the matter I'm trying to raise borders on food security. I think it's public knowledge now that, Madam Speaker, the prices of the staple food, which is mealie meal, are skyrocketing beyond the reach of many of our Zambian citizens. And the only way we can mitigate these skyrocketing prices is through production. Madam Speaker, your farmers across the country, not only in Shiwangandu, those small-scale farmers who depend on Farm Input Support Program, FISIP, were comforted when they heard that government was going to deliver the inputs in good time this year. However, many of them are now gripped with fear because they are not sure whether they will be on this program, which will then guarantee proper production for the next season. Is the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Madam Speaker, in order, even if he's not around, to remain quiet without coming to this August House to update the August House and the nation through this August House, the entire nation, on the fate of these small-scale farmers who produce the food that we all depend on every farming season? I seek your serious guidance, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a widespread matter which I believe needs the intervention of the Minister just to assure the public, especially the small-scale farmers, whether they will be able to access the farming inputs since there are new registers that have been put in place. So it's very important that the farmers are updated as to whether they will be put on the registers or not, so that they can be prepared for the coming farming season. Therefore, I would direct the Minister of Agriculture to come to this House on Wednesday next week, just to come and give us an update on the FISIP program, especially the register, so that the farmers are aware whether they qualify or they don't qualify to be on the program. Thank you so much. We make progress. Questions for oral answer under Standing Order number 74. The Honorable Member from Mbawala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 336.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member of Parliament from Mbawala, Honorable Msanje, is asking the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation the following question in two parts. Under A, when the government will rehabilitate the Kavanze and the Mbole dams in Mbawala parliamentary constituency, and under B, what has been the cause of the delay in rehabilitating the said dams. Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. Under A, the rehabilitation of the Kavanze and the Mbole dams in Bavala parliamentary constituency will commence as soon as the feasibility studies is conducted and the scope of works and cost are established. Under B, Madam Speaker, I would like to inform the House that the cause of the delay of the rehabilitation of the two dams has been due to inadequate funding to undertake the feasibility studies and later the rehabilitation works in the past. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Supplementary questions? The Honourable Member from Babala.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you so much, Honourable Minister, for that very wonderful and encouraging answer to our people in the Kavanze area as well as the surrounding areas. We also have other dams like Sugubomba and the Kawanga, which have been surveyed recently by your department. We are happy that your department is on the ground. It's been going around conducting these feasibility studies. What we wish to know is to whether, with the restructuring, something coming in, whether you can add a bit more to the dams, because we have other dams like Kawanga Dam, which I mentioned, which is also cracked, so that you can, if you can add to increase the number of dams that you are going to rehabilitate in Babara constituency, and later on to construct new ones. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I also want to thank the Member of Parliament from Babala for that follow-up question. Madam Speaker, I wish to confirm and also appreciate his observation that indeed we have our officers going around various districts of the country to undertake some assessments on the state of the dams and also to establish the amount of resources we may want to attach in the rehabilitation exercise. Madam Speaker, the House may wish to know that His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, has actually, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, of course, has directed our ministry to ensure that we should tilt our activities towards rainwater harvesting and ensure that we prepare adequate infrastructure to harvest the water. And in that regard, our first point of call is to ensure that the existing dams are rehabilitated. But in addition to that, we should build more new dams. To that effect, Madam Speaker, this year alone, 2023, we've planned to construct 16 more new dams. And going forward into 2024, we envisage that the number will increase. And now, with the good news of having restructured the debt, we hope that there could be more resources to this sector to cater for what the Member of Parliament is asking for. And this is our desire that with what has happened, we should consider increasing our focus in terms of numbers of dams in the various constituencies. We want to see this happening, and I want to assure the Member of Parliament that we have taken note of his desire, the desire of the people of Mbabala. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Pambashe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I don't know if I heard the Minister correctly. If the question is talking about the rehabilitation of the existing dams, and in the response, the Minister referred to the carrying out feasibility studies instead of the Bureau of Quantity to inform the cost, because the feasibility study involves whether to proceed or not based on the submission by the members of the community. did the minister refer to the existing dams as carrying out feasibility study or the BOQ, and to understand how much it would cost to rehabilitate the existing dams, or they are carrying out the feasibility study on the already existing dams? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Pambashe for that question. Clearly, I think he didn't get me correctly. I was talking about our officers going around to undertake assessments on the dams with a view to rehabilitate them. Then I went further to say that in certain areas we are undertaking feasibility studies because there will be new dams that will be constructed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kafue.
Thank you so much. Honorable Minister, it's good to hear that your team of officers is going around to undertake those activities you've outlined. So I wanted to find out if there is a program of work they are following so that we may know when they are in Mbabala and also when we can expect them in Kafue, because equally, you know, we are interested to have them to come and conduct these assessments in our constituency. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this was a constituency-based question, but I see that the people of Kafue are sneaking in the additional question. I want to say that our officers have been sent to targeted districts where our provincial teams have indicated the existence of some dams and the dams which require some works to be undertaken. So I will engage the Member of Parliament for Kafue to see the areas where we may need to work on the dams. So we'll have that engagement. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kabwe Central.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to ask a follow-up question. Minister, from the preliminary visibility study that was done by officers in February, there's a report that 7 dams already breached and 27 were at high risk of even breaching, meaning by now, by the end of the rainy season, there are more dams that breached. And you have told that you are earmarked to construct more dams. Can you tell us your priority? Are you going first to work on these dams that your office have said have breached, and others at high risk, including the dams that are from Babara constituency? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I also want to thank the Member of Parliament for Kabwe Central for that follow-up question. Madam Speaker, I said that we are undertaking the assessment to rehabilitate the dams, and it's true that quite a number of dams require some maintenance because they have seen their days, and they are not capturing the water as per the desired the initial plans. Now, in terms of what is our priority, yes, first of all, we would want to push more to rehabilitate the dams that are in a dilapidated state. But alongside this focus, we are planning to build more dams, because they are in certain areas where they already have the dams, but they are not in a very good state, whereas they are in certain areas where the population has grown and they have never had a chance to enjoy these facilities to have the dams. So we need to strike a balance around rehabilitation of the already existing dams and also attending to the needs of our people. As you know, the population has been growing, and obviously this brings around the new challenges. So yes, our focus is to push more to rehabilitate the already existing dams, but alongside that focus, we'll also be building new dams. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The last member, the Honorable Member for Dundumwezi.
I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to find out from the Honorable Minister. I wanted to know what is the estimated cost for rehabilitation and also for a new dam. I'm asking this question, Madam Speaker, because the people of Dundumwezi are extremely excited with the intentions by the Honorable Minister to construct 2 dams after 3 decades. But the question is, I'm asking how much would it cost to construct a new dam in Mbabala, and also the estimated cost for rehabilitation. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I also want to thank my brother, the Member of Parliament for Dundumwezi, for that follow-up question. I'm happy to learn that our people in Dundumwezi are excited about our intentions to provide them with dams, and I want to assure him that we will not let down the people of Dundumwezi, we will not let down the people of Zambia. We will ensure that as we push for more resources, we provide for these very important infrastructure or facilities. In terms of the cost, Madam Speaker, obviously the cost of rehabilitating each dam varies depending on the circumstances, depending on the level of dilapidation. So I can't give off the cuff the figure, the amount required for rehabilitating a particular dam, because the circumstances range. Similarly, the cost of constructing the new dams is not fixed. It varies depending on the size of the dams, because our focus is to build small, medium, and large size dams. So the cost differs, and also depending on where we are going to construct this dam. For example, if we are constructing a dam in Kafue and a dam being constructed in Dundumwezi or in Rundazi, the cost might vary because of also issues to do with the distance. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Next question, the Honorable Member for Mfumbwe.
Question number 337.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam, thank you very much, and thank you, Honorable Mr. Kamondo, the Honorable Member of Parliament from Mfumbwe constituency, who's asking the Ministry of Local Government at A, whether government has plans to construct a play park in Mfumbwe district, and at B, if so, when. Madam Speaker, let me thank the MP once again for recognizing the need for a play park. The play parks are essential, safe places where children can be themselves and express their fun-loving nature while developing crucial cognitive, physical, and emotional skills. Thank you, Honorable Member. In response, I would like to affirm and confirm that yes, indeed, government has a plan to develop play park in Mfumbwe district, like many other districts, and that B, the plan is part of the 5-year Mfumbwe Integrated Development Plan, which I launched in Solwezi just about a fortnight ago on the 21st of June, 2023, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Dundumwezi. Dundumwezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just wanted to know whether these play parks are only meant for people in the urban. Because I've never seen one maybe in the rural part of Dundumweza, and also in Honorable Member, Honorable Kamondo. Are they only for urban? And if they are for urban, what are those children in the rural areas benefiting if there is such a situation? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
I'm sure Mufumbwe is rural. The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Dundumwezi, for that question. As I indicated earlier on, I said that play parks are essential safe areas where children go to develop their social and cognitive as well as physical skills. Madam, I grew up in my early formative stages in a village, a typical village where my father was a headmaster. And the whole area was a play park. The whole area was a play park. We could go in the fields, we could go in the mulonde, in the shrubs. And so the play parks are most identified in concrete jungles. There are special designated areas for children who grow up in urban settings to also experience nature. And this taking advantage of this question by the honorable colleague is to say that we found a situation where the play parks in urban areas had started being sold off by the previous people who were there. And in preference for concrete jungles. Example that I can give is where the Edgar Chagwalungu big shopping mall is in Kitwe. That was a very big play park. In Parklands, they sold. In Kavwata, they sold. They made it natural to simply destroy the flora and fauna. That was designated for the very purpose for which the
Honorable Minister. There is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, what is your point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm raising this point of order pursuant to Standing Order 65, 1B. The Honorable Minister, who has been responding very well, reasonably well to the Honorable colleague of Dundumwezi and encouraging him to encourage our children to play in the bush. But he decided to veer off, Madam Speaker, from his statement, which is written properly for him, to start insinuating. And my assume, Madam Speaker, the brief stint at the ministry where he is, to accuse the PF government. It's history, and you'll be history too. So don't worry about that. So, Madam Speaker, is the Honorable Minister in order to make such a blanket allegation without laying proof? This is what we do here. Madam Speaker, these ministers need orientation.
Honorable Member, please just concentrate on the point of
Madam
order.
Speaker, is the Honorable Minister in order to veer off from his well-written responses and start making bracket allegations which he can't provide proof for on the table? Is it in order, Madam Speaker, to proceed that way? I seek your serious guidance. This is the House of Rules and Procedures.
Thank you so much. Of course, the Honorable Minister brought in the issue of selling some play parks. However, Honorable Member, when you were raising your point of order, I heard you mention that he said the PF, which I didn't hear myself. He just said There are some people, I think, that sold off some, yes, some play parks. He didn't mention PF. However, my guide to the Honorable Minister is please let us stick as much as possible to this constituency-based question, which is talking about Mufumbwe constituency. If possible, Honorable Minister, let's focus on Mufumbwe. You may proceed.
I appreciate, Madam Speaker. In my response to the colleague from Mufumbwe, I indicated that the play park that we envisage to develop is contained in the Mufumbwe 5-year integrated development plan. And I took advantage of this, that this which we are battling to do should not be an exercise in futility that years after we have gone, others should sell because they serve a purpose. That is the nexus or the connection that I thought of putting. And also to state that what we found, Madam Speaker, was that play parks had been sold off. And even during our time, because I'm a very fair leader myself, 2 play parks in Lusaka were also sold. And what we did ourselves, my colleague is there, the Minister of Lands, is that immediately we heard about the parceling out of the Church Road play park, Kalungu play park, we instantly went to the Anti-Corruption Commission to report that matter in order to reverse that transaction. The seller was found, arrested, because he had a title deed whose origin was in doubt. And we asked our sister ministry, the Ministry of Lands, to immediately put a restriction order on the sale of those play parks. That's how important we think these play parks are. Suffice to mention that in the past, these transactions kept just happening while leaders were watching. I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kabwata. Honorable members, please, let's keep in mind that this is a constituency-based question.
Thank
the
you.
Honorable Member for Kabwata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, Honorable Minister, I do agree with you when you say that some play parks were actually sold. Even in my own constituency, I can testify. And the others, actually, what you forgot to mention was that they also gave out leases. Up to now, we don't even know the people that are running those play parks, especially in my constituency. Now, Honorable Minister, my question is, what measures are you going to put up in place so that the Kawata incident does not also happen in Mufumbwe, where we see that a play park in the rural area will end up being sold by whoever was going to take over?
Thank you. Before the Minister comes in, there is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Pambashe, what is your point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my point of order is in relation to Standing Order 65B, 1, and this is to do with the immediate Speaker, Minister for Water Development, on the question that I raised. Madam Speaker, I went out to pick the verbatim, because when we speak in this Parliament, we must be factual and give relevant information to the people that are listening. These remain as part of our answer that even 10, 20, 50 years from now, this will be on our record. Madam Speaker, I read the response by the Minister. He said, number 2, additional note number 2. Nevertheless, the Ministry has undertaken and will include Kabanze and Mbore dams on the program for future feasibility studies. The rehabilitation of the dams can only be done once the feasibility studies are done. Designs done, engineers estimate, determined, and when funded are made available. It is from the response by the Minister, Madam Speaker, that I raised the question and said, are the old dams now require a feasibility study, or it requires cost estimate so that we know how much it will cost, because the feasibility study may entail that the members of the community opposed to the construction of that feasibility, that project, which may cause environmental impact after the assessment is done. The minister in his response said, I misunderstood him, we did not refer to the feasibility study. When he read this statement, and I quickly went to the answer, and I picked this statement, Madam Speaker, was the minister in order to mislead this August House and the Zambian people 1 minute after he read this statement? I seek your guidance.
Thank you, Honorable Member. From the rules that we have, it's very important that a point of order is raised immediately there is a breach that has happened in the House. Now we have even passed that segment where the Minister of Water, Development and Sanitation was responding. We are now on another question that is being answered by the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. So, Honorable Member, what you can do, please, can you put it in a written format, a complaint, address it to the Speaker so that it can be sorted out? Because as at now, we've moved on. We cannot go back to a subject that has already been studied. The Minister of Local Government and Rural Development will respond to the Honorable Member for Kawata.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for yet another opportunity. My thinking around the question that the colleague has asked is that I actually answered that in my previous response by stating that never again in the future are we going to allow selfish individuals to sell off common areas like play parks, which serve a purpose, not only for developing children, but also provide, in case people do not know, that vegetation is what helps us get oxygen that we breathe. And so we are going to maintain green areas that are designated to be green in the entire country. As for those that were sold, I'm afraid that is a matter that we may need to submit to our colleagues that run the Justice Ministry to determine whether or not reversals can be done to these unfortunate and unscrupulous transactions. Madam Speaker, thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kafue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, it's pleasing to hear that our government has a program to try and put up these play parks in various areas. Now, I was wondering if at this point they have some models and indicative costs of what it would take to put up like a model play park so that the Honourable Member from Mufumbwe may consider using his CDF in case it's an amount that is manageable. I thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Member of Parliament for Kafue. Madam, we have not designed a standard size play park because they all come in various sizes. And also the size of a play park may be determined by the size of the population in a given jurisdiction. It may be determined by the amount of activity that one wants to embark on. And we're encouraging citizens, as a matter of fact, who have land, to convert some of their land in order to bring out these play parks, which are very helpful. They're actually a therapy, if you want to ask me, for children to go out and interact with nature. It is a big therapy and a way to grow for children. You can imagine, Madam Speaker, children who live, for instance, in Kawata, on a block of flats in the high rise, that they wake up, they go to school with their parents, they come back and they're up on the stairs and they're locked up. It's like being in jail. It's like being confined. So these play parks serve that purpose, to free the mind of a child and allow them to interact with nature. So they'll come in different forms and sizes depending on what ambition you have on a given area. Thank you.
I'll pick the last two, the Honorable Member from Mbabala and the Honorable Member for Pambashe. The Honorable Member from Mbabala.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for the wonderful explanations you are providing on this question. As the Children's Caucus here at Parliament, we are very excited to hear about the program of work you have embarked on to revive the program for these play parks for children. I mean, we have seen in Osaka, like you have mentioned, there at Unza, Marshlands area, we used to have a good play park for children. Behind Don Gordon Mindstone there, we used to have a good play park. All these are gone, and so it's so annoying. My question is the ministry taking into consideration in the design of these models for local resource-based play parks that can use local materials so that we can actually have models that can work everywhere in the country. For example, us from the villages, we could have ours made out of our wood and other materials that is available in our communities. And I think with your explanation about donating land, that would be an easier one for us, because then we can actually take it forward using our CDF and many other areas to ensure that our children have got modern play parks that are appropriate to the cultural environment where we are. Thank you so much, Honourable Minister.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
I can confirm, thank you, Honourable Member, I can confirm that we will entertain, and gladly so, any innovation that will come to help government achieve this particular policy direction of greening our areas. And I'm quite certain that in line with our position with my colleague from the Ministry of Green Economy, will get sufficient support for those who want to embark on such initiatives. I can also confirm that it is the government's policy to actually go on a robust plan to make sure that we protect our environment as much as we possibly can, and that's the reason why my colleague and friend there, Honorable Colin Zov, whose ministry was created, it was there to demonstrate the President's will to respond to the climate challenges that we are having, not only as a country, but as a region.
Thank you. Next question. The Honorable Member for Narikwanda, by prior arrangement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 338.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Apologies. The Member of Parliament, Mr. Ndeleki, is asking the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security whether the government is aware that there have been cases of people suspected of practicing witchcraft being shot in Nyawa area in Katombola, parliamentary constituency. B, if so, what measures are being taken to protect the residents of Nyawa and other parts of the constituency from such attacks? Our response is as follows, Madam Speaker. Government is aware of the reports of cases of people suspected of practicing witchcraft being shot in Nyawa area and the cases were reported at Kalomo Police Station. To question B, Madam Speaker, the Zambia Police Service has enhanced intelligence gathering on the matter, leading to the arrest of a number of suspects for shooting people suspected of practicing witchcraft. In addition, the Zambia Police Service has been conducting sensitization programs encouraging people to use appropriate channels when they are aggrieved, as opposed to taking the law into their own hands. I thank you.
Thank you. Just before the honorable members come in, I've just received information that the acting lead of government business today is Honorable Haimbe, the Minister of Justice. And maybe also for the information, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security is held up somewhere. We have the acting Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Acting Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. Honorable Minister, is your ministry, because this sounds clearly that these are the Karavina matters, is your ministry considering coming up with an amnesty to clean up the area of illegal arms, firearms that may be in wrong arms, and how many people have been shot dead by the same? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for a follow-up question. I'll answer the first part. The second part would be considered as a new question. Government's policy, and this has been happening, wherein from time to time an amnesty is given to the public on issues of arms, and I think that has actually helped. And so it's an ongoing program of government when the need arises. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Dundumwezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Nyawa area actually is sharing a boundary with Dundumwezi. And in Dundumwezi, the recent happening, in fact, last week, one lady was shot dead in my constituency. I wanted to know, Honorable Minister, whether you are in a position to inform us when the vehicles for police are coming. Because one issue that is so devastating in areas like Nyawa is where a person is shot dead in the night, and by the time the police from Kalomo go to Nyawa, it is 16 hours the following morning. And this has been the cry of the people. Why do bodies lay for such a long time? I thank you.
The Acting Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for a follow-up question. It is indeed true. We've heard of a number of cases where communities are living in fear. This is the same even in my own personal constituency in Chongwe districts. This is something that government is very concerned about, wherein we're getting several reports from various places where people armed are attacking innocent citizens. To the exact question or precise question that has been put forward concerning police vehicles, I've just been advised by the Minister of Local Government that, in fact, the procurement process is already in process, and very soon, through the same process that was used to acquire constituency development vehicles, the police vehicles will come through the same route. And members of parliament are being reminded that some did not think it was a good idea, but now you can see on the need for the police to be equipped with transport, because there's an increase of crime generally especially in the rural parts of Zambia, and they also need that important service of protection and security. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Pemba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Minister. In most cases, these criminals who actually shoot people, they use homemade guns, and the bullets that they use, actually they buy them from the shops using the license for those who have guns. Now, my question is there anything that can be done to discourage those who legally own guns and use the license to buy bullets for homemade guns? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's assume that this statement of question by the Honorable Member is correct. I think the answer is very simple, Madam Speaker. It is illegal to buy bullets for a particular gun that you have licensed and use those bullets on another gun, be it homemade. And I think that members of Parliament who are partly custodian of the people in where they're living should help government in sensitizing the public. It is illegal. And also let me state that really police is as good as the people. An effective police service is dependent on an effective community policing. So we as citizens should be policers, should be the policemen. Like now drugs are being distributed in clinics. It's the community who can help the government to catch criminals. Because police are just human beings like you and I. Yes, they may have the training, but worldwide, police are effective if the people themselves act as police. Thank you.
I'll pick the last two, the Honorable Member for Mbabala and the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, in that order.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Acting Minister of Home Affairs, for the responses given on this question in Kazungula constituency. Madam Speaker, I wanted to find out if the Ministry of Home Affairs has got a conflict resolution program to try and sensitize our communities as well as train our communities to amicably handle these issues. Because even in my constituency in Mbabara, as it has been reported, Mbabara, Tundumwezi, Kasungula, we are on one line. We have been receiving a lot of these hired killings. Just last month in the Kabanga area of my ward, somebody was killed and another one was missed by a bullet. So can we have conflict resolution trainings to our communities or paralegal desks set up in our constituencies to help our communities understand how to resolve these issues on a win-win basis without killing somebody?
The Acting Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honourable, for your follow-up question. Madam Speaker, I think the questions coming through shows that we have issues in our communities, because as people's representatives, when you hear the questions coming in about gun shooting here, gun shooting there, this is not something that is common in Zambia, but clearly we seem to have an issue that requires attention. And let me state that the police service does have an information wing, a marketing wing that deals with issues of the community. As to whether we are being effective is another point. But let me also say that we are aware that this government is decentralizing, and police service, local government, Minister of Local Government has a department which acts as a small police. Those are the kind of people that should really be effective. Like I have said, to expect that in some areas you have very far police posts that are dotted. In some communities, maybe you have to walk 100 kilometers before you find a police post. So in such a situation, obviously, it means that the police service has to depend on the community. And remember also, Madam Speaker, that these criminals are not coming from heaven, they're coming from our homes. And that's why it's important that the community, the leadership, the local leaders in all spheres of our human endeavors join hands with the police to support the police. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I totally want to agree with the Honorable Minister that effective policing really depends so much on the community. And the Honorable Minister you are sitting next to is very critical in this issue, Honorable Minister, because these crimes are committed in collusion. The community will know. And so the community leaders are very critical, village headmen going up to the chiefs. And I think the Honorable MP for Dundumwezi, who I worked with on some of these matters, understand very well. Is there any deliberate program you are going to put in place between the Ministry of Home Affairs and local government, under whose ministry the portfolio of chiefs and traditional affairs falls, in order to start addressing these matters? Because it's beyond police, as in police service, to start addressing these matters effectively from the community. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Acting Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable former Minister of Home Affairs, for that very important follow-up question. Yes, I've said former Minister. I want to say that the decentralization policy is not only devolving, for example, health services, primary health services to local authorities. The Ministry of Education is also devolving some functions. And in that same vein, the Ministry of Home Affairs and Internal Security also is devolving certain functions to local authority. And since we're all in agreement here that policing, or the real policeman, is not the policeman, but the people themselves in that particular community. And therefore, our hope as government is that once the devolution process begins to take effect, the community will get to understand that, in fact, the best police officer is the woman in the market, is the mother in a home, is the people on the streets. Those are the people that can make police to be effective. So the answer is actually yes, in agreement with your question that you have ably articulated, that that is the way to proceed. That we need the local authorities in all the 116 to take up the role of being a police person, or a police officer at that local level, because the communities, the councillors, the local leaders, the headmen, they are the ones that know what is happening in their areas of jurisdiction. Thank you. And lastly, Madam Speaker, I'm acting minister until tomorrow. The minister is out of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Notice of motion. The Honorable Member for Kasama Central.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Education, Science and Technology on the report of the Auditor General on the administration of student loans and scholarships by the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board in Zambia.
Can we have order? We want to listen to the report. You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. By the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board in Zambia between 2017 and 2020 for the second session of the 20th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on 27th June 2023.
Should be the 13th National Assembly.
I beg your pardon, Madam Speaker. For the second session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on the 27th of June 2023.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Gwembe. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Education, Science and Technology on the performance audit report of the Auditor General on the administration of student loans and scholarships by the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board in Zambia between 2017 to 2020 for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 27th June 2023. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Kasama Central.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders number 198G of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2021, the National Assembly is vested with the power to consider audit reports referred to it by the Speaker or through a resolution of the House. Your committee was mandated to consider this performance audit report in accordance with Standing Orders 198G. I have no doubt that honorable members have taken time to read the committee's report, and therefore I will restrict my comments to key findings. Madam Speaker, the government of the Republic of Zambia transformed the bursary scheme into a loan scheme in the year 2004. This was done with the aim of ensuring sustainability of the scheme as well as increasing the capacity of the government to increase the number of beneficiaries from universities and colleges. Madam Speaker, following the enactment of the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board, Act number 31 of 2016.
Order, Honorable Member. We seem to be disturbing the Honorable Member on the floor. The voices are becoming louder and louder. We want to listen to the report. You can also caucus from outside. You are free to do so. We want to listen to this very important report. Let's not disturb the Honorable Member. This is the second time. The Honorable Member for Kasama Central, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, following the enactment of the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board, Act number 31 of 2016, the government of the Republic of Zambia has since the year 2018 implemented a repayment mechanism under the scheme targeting beneficiaries from the year 2005 to date. Madam Speaker, the audit report under review considered whether the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board has put in place measures to ensure increased equitable access and inclusive higher education through self-sustaining student loans and scholarships. Madam Speaker, the current loan scheme includes funding for the student tuition, accommodation, meals, books, and project allowance. The report revealed that there was need for the government to increase the budgetary allocation to the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board so as to accommodate the high number of school leavers who qualify for admission to universities and colleges every year. Madam Speaker, the committee further observed that there was need for the Loans and Scholarships Board to come up with a testing mechanism to determine the authenticity of the vulnerability of the loan applicants. Through this tool, the board will be able to award loans to those who truly deserve them and also provide financial assistance in accordance with the needs of the applicants. Madam Speaker, with regard to recovery of loans, the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board started loan recoveries in the year 2018. The process has, however, been marred by many anomalies, which include the following. 1, wrong amortized loan amounts. 2, high interest rates of 15% charged on a reducing balance. 3,
failure to capture and recover loans from over 33,217 beneficiaries, and 4, lack of proper tracking mechanism of beneficiaries, to mention but a few. Madam Speaker, in view of the above, the committee recommends the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board should collaborate with the public universities and other government departments to ensure that an integrated information management system database is established for ease of managing of the scheme. Madam Speaker, in addition, the committee urges the Loans and Scholarships Board to ensure that it strengthens its sensitization and visibility activities in all provinces so that no person who is eligible for sponsorship is left behind. Madam Speaker, I wish to conclude by thanking all the stakeholders who appeared before the committee. Lastly, let me thank you and the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly for the guidance and support rendered to the committee throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I beg to move. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in seconding the motion on the floor of this August House to adopt the report on the Education, Science and Technology, the performance audit report of the Auditor General on the administration of the student loans in Zambia on the period 2017 to 2020. Allow me, Madam Speaker, to thank the chairperson for having ably moved the motion to adopt the report which is on this floor. Madam Speaker, may I draw you to 3 issues that I would like to address, which the mover may not have covered. I'll look at the training programs awarded to students, the insurance of student loans, and the investment of the funds. Madam Speaker, the committee observed that there are students that are sent abroad, which is extremely very high sponsoring such students, when such students can be trained locally. And the committee noted that the Loans Board has never taken time to do a cost-benefit analysis so that there is an analysis of the cost of taking students out of the country and those locally. And again, when you look at taking students abroad, very few will be trained as opposed to locally. Therefore, the committee recommends that the Loans Board undertakes cost-benefit analysis for the benefit of the country. Another issue is the issue of insurance. Madam Speaker, you may wish to know that these loans, the students' loans, are not insured. And there is a lot of defaults in terms of payment. So now, in the event of these loans defaulting, students defaulting, what happens in the absence of insurance? The committee noted that that is a very serious anomaly, and as such, they have recommended that all student loans should be insured because this is the revolving fund. So there must be sustainability that in the absence, in the event of default, the insurance company should be able to sustain these funds. The other issue that I wish to note, Madam Speaker, is the concern of the committee that the Loans Board does not have an investment policy. One wonders if there's no investment policy, how does the loans board grow the fund, sustain the fund? And the committee recommended that with urgently the loans board should be able to implement an investment framework so that there is sustainability in the loans to the students, so that the monies that they are given by government, it can grow. Because at the moment, the loans board solely depend on the grants by government. So this is a very critical observation by the committee, that the loans board should be able to create an investment forum. Madam Speaker, with these few words, I beg to second.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Kampinsa.
Madam Speaker, I'm grateful once again for the opportunity to make a few very important comments on this very, very important topic that has been brought to this August House, and I want to thank the mover of the motion, Honourable Member of Parliament for Kasama Central, and of course the seconder from our good people of Gwembe. Madam Speaker, the report has highlighted what needs to be done to ensure that there is equitable access to as many applicants as possible. Madam Speaker, I want to begin my contribution to this particular debate on how we can identify those who are vulnerable, how we can ensure that as many poor people acquire education at tertiary level. I'm aware that the initial idea behind training as many Zambians, when our forefathers were deciding that they should come up with a bursary scheme, the understanding was that Zambia did not have a lot of people that were well equipped with skills. At that particular time, our founding fathers, their thinking was that let us train as many people as possible. And I'm aware that even in this August House, we've got a lot of beneficiaries from this particular program. The initial idea was let us release money, train as many people as possible. Now, over the years, Madam Speaker, the challenge has been the issue of numbers. How do we ensure that young people from Mpongwe get the opportunity, for instance, to go to university, acquire a degree, and apply their necessary skills? So the question we must ask ourselves, Madam Speaker, how do we establish that certain people are vulnerable and they need to be assisted? I do recall, Madam Speaker, that in 2004, government decided to do away with a bursary. A bursary, Madam Speaker, is where you are given money and you don't have to pay back. What we have now, Madam Speaker, is a loan scheme. A loan scheme basically means, Madam Speaker, that if someone is given money to study, once they start work, they have to give back to a revolving fund. And I'm aware, Madam Speaker, that it has been a challenge to get as many people on the loan scheme as possible. So what should be done to ensure that two things are achieved, Madam Speaker? What should be done to ensure that we capture as many applicants as possible? The first thing that I want to suggest, Madam Speaker, is that if the money is now a loan, it simply means that we need to have more students acquiring the loan, and assuming that they are going to get employed at some point, that in itself, Madam Speaker, creates some form of insurance. I'm aware that the committee has recommended that these loans need to be insured. The loan insurance component, Madam Speaker, the likelihood is that it will increase the value of the actual loan itself. For a loan to be insured, it simply means that we have to go to the private sector, ask the insurance companies to tell us how much insurance it will cost. The other way of ensuring that we recover that money, Madam Speaker, is to train as more students as possible so that when they start work, they start contributing the deductions
that are supposed to be applicable. And this is why, Madam Speaker, last year, I don't know if it's early this year, I'm on record, Madam Speaker, suggesting that since it is a loan, if we target more beneficiaries, it means that the revolving fund will grow faster. So my suggestion to the committee and my suggestion to the Minister of Education is that perhaps the challenge is we do not have enough resources. But if provision was made to increase the basket, if we allocated more money into the loan scheme, it simply means that the question of who is vulnerable and who is not may not even arise. Because currently, we have a challenge of identifying who is vulnerable and who is not. Is a young person in Ndeke more vulnerable than someone who's staying in Mulenga compound? Who determines that this family needs to be sponsored and this family does not need to be sponsored? To avoid this argument of who is more vulnerable, Madam Speaker, my suggestion, and I want to insist, that if we have more money in the fund, there will be no discrimination that will arise because every applicant will be given a loan once they start work, because the assumption is that when you are trained to acquire a degree at not only CBU and UNZA, it simply means that the likelihood of you getting employed is quite high. So if that is the principle, Madam Speaker, I want to appeal to government that the discrimination of who is vulnerable and who is not, we will continue struggling to identify who is more vulnerable between a child in Mindolo and a child in Ndeke. Because the formula for determining who is vulnerable, Madam Speaker, despite involving the social welfare department, at this stage in our country, we still are not able to determine whether a young person in Usakile would need a loan as opposed to a young person in another constituency. To cure that problem, Madam Speaker, we double the resources, we triple the resources, we put in more money to be available, because essentially, Madam Speaker, it is a loan. It is a loan because after you start work, you have to pay back with some form of interest. So as I stand here, Madam Speaker, I'm agreeing with the observations by the committee, but I want to add to what they've already prepared, that, dear colleagues, we still are not able to determine who is vulnerable and who is more vulnerable. What would be the cure to that problem? Let us put in more resources so that those who want to go to university, regardless of how many points they've gotten, because today, Madam Speaker, the preserve of a loan scheme is for those that have done exceptionally well. Yet the principle should be this person cannot afford to acquire further education. So I want to appeal to the acting Minister of Education, I can't see the substantive office bearer, that a loan scheme is money that you acquire with the hope that you will get employed and you start paying back. If that is the principle, Madam Speaker, it means that we can extend this loan scheme to as many students as possible. We can go to UNILAS and indicate to the students at UNILAS that you can also apply for this loan scheme, because one day you have to pay back. We can go to literally all the private universities, provide resources, and ensure that they pay back after they start commencing their working structure. So, Madam Speaker, I want to, in supporting the report, I want to appeal to government that let us look at this matter beyond the application of a loan scheme to students in public universities. Let us expand the fund, because at the end of the day, at some point, those individuals will have the capacity to pay back. If they have the capacity to pay back, they will be able to contribute to a revolving fund. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in supporting the motion, first I would like to agree with the conclusion of the report, in a sense that many of the times we admit or sponsor pupils or new grade 12 graduates to universities, those who are from the cities. Madam Speaker, you agree with me that we are saying that we are going, the the board admits 35% of those students on merit. And if you look at the number of that 35%, people where they are coming from, where those students are coming from, you find that they are coming either from Copperbelt, Lusaka, Chipata, or Livingstone. It ends there. If you look at the areas in the rural parts of this district, if a district can be given 1 or 2 positions, that is a miracle. So why am I agreeing with them that at the end of it, when they do the selection, at least at the lower level, which is the Constituency Development Committee, should look at those names. Are these names really coming from Nyimba or not? Madam Speaker, if you look at the people at the University of Zambia today, if we do a simple audit, you find that 90% of those students are coming from urban areas. This loan board is not for people in the cities alone. It's for the entire country. It's for every Zambian who should benefit from that. What it is today, you may say that we have given 30% for rural setup and female students. That is not correct. That is where I differ with this report and agree, where I differ with that paragraph in the report and agree with the conclusion. It's very simple. If you check at the numbers coming from the rural part of Zambia, admitted of those schools, first and foremost, they don't even verify those addresses the applicants put on the application form. And this is in the report. And now because they don't verify, the only people can verify and agree that this student is coming from a rural setup, it's the people who are living in those areas. And my appeal and recommendation to add up on the recommendation which is there is that people should be assessed at the district level, at the constituency level, so that we can have equal numbers of students in higher education. From there, we are going to have equal numbers there. Madam Speaker, all good schools in the rural areas are filled up with students coming from urban areas. If you look at a certificate today, it will tell you that this person is coming from Kachorora Secondary School. Kachorora Secondary School has got 90% of people from Lusaka. It's now that CDF has moved in, and great thanks to that, because now we've pushed in the numbers. At least we are somewhere 20–30% as local people in that constituency. Now, these are the same people who are in Lusaka, benefiting from the better schools in rural setup, and when they come here, they take up all the position at the University of Zambia, all the position at Mulungushi University, all the position at CBU. At the end of the day, the inequity will continue being there, because the people in the rural areas won't be regarded as part and parcel of this country. My appeal is that the way we have taken decentralization on local government, people identify from the rural, from the ward or from the section. That is what we should do with this board. Then we are going to have equal students in these universities. Madam Speaker, I also disagree with a certain issue where I was saying, let's expand. Yes, let's expand the universities. But this issue of just expanding universities in the cities does not help us as a country. Let's see to it that in the rural parts of this country, if we are going to have Sorwezi or Mfumbwe University or Northwestern University, that will help us. If we are going to be proactive enough in this parliament, and this time we say, okay, let's build King Lewanika University, that will help us. If we are going to say we are going to have a university in Mansa, that will help us. If we are going to build a university in Nyimba, that will help us. And this is what we need, so that we can also decentralize tertiary education at that level. So even if we are admitting somebody, they say this person is coming from Rufwanyama at this university, we agree with everyone that yes, it's coming from you. This person is coming from Rufwanyama. Not what we have today. What we have today, the spaces out there are just for the few elite people from Lusaka, Copperbelt. And this is a cartel. And no one can disagree with me. This is a cartel. If we do a simple audit, we are going to understand that whatever we are doing, we are not helping people out there.
So my appeal, Madam Speaker, is that we need to do that. Then in addition to that, it's my appeal to the way the programs we are sponsoring. What we have done as a country, we are sponsoring more of consumption professionals. And I like to the people who should give us production. Madam Speaker, there's no country, Madam Speaker, which survived without promoting science and technology. There's no country. Madam Chairman, today is it where it is now? Because they invested in technology. This country have got less engineers, less technicians, and full of accountants. It's not an insult, Madam Speaker. Full of accountants, full of marketers, full of business administrators. What are we going to administer when there is no business there to administer? We need first to create employment. We need first to come up with what to give us production. Then from there we employ the rest of the professionals. Madam Speaker, without this, we might have million graduates from the University of Zambia. Where are they going to get a job? When there are no people there who can create employment. This is a system as a country we need to build. Today, Madam Speaker, we have got more graduates as lawyers. Lawyers. I know here 90% of you are lawyers. But which cases are you going to prosecute political cases? There must be there other cases to prosecute. So what do we need? We need to build the cases you have as politicians to prosecute. No, we need to build this economy, Madam Speaker, based on simple things. Madam Speaker, it's sad that in this country, with all the graduates, they end up going to South Africa, especially those, Madam Speaker, in good technical jobs. And they are the designers of things we import from South Africa. We can't push in money in this field. We need to do. We need to push in. We need to get a lot of students in universities, in colleges, who can at least make something for this country, who can create employment for this country. We can't just have graduates who are looking for employment. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support this motion 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think the topic that we have is a very serious one that helps those who may not be able to. If all of us here were not helped by free education, we wouldn't be where we are. Correct. And therefore, any system must be analyzed and be checked that it really does what is supposed to be done. Now, our objective of this audit report was to assess whether the higher education bursary has put in place measures to ensure increased equitable access and inclusive higher education through self-sustaining student loans and scholarships. So the question is it very inclusive? I don't think so, Madam Speaker. I don't think it's very inclusive. Something that is inclusive takes on everyone else. Now, if you look at, first of all, the structure at the institution that gives loans, it has to change to be inclusive to everybody. It looks like those who designed it at first did not look at its purpose very well. So there is need to look at it and restructure it so that it can be inclusive. Then we come to the increase for the money that is supposed to be given. This is very cardinal. I think I remember in 2016, we were unable to sponsor about 2,000 students. And you look at how many secondary schools we have now in the country. They are numerous. Schools have developed and the population has increased. So we need to increase the amount of money that we put so that we can have more students. Then we come to the recovery method. When it comes to the recovery method they are using, and that's what I'm trying to say, the structure of this board must be redone, just like we did debt restructuring. Why am I saying so? If you look at it, the methods they are using to recover money they are not adequate. First of all, they are only able to recover about 6%. And therefore, giving a burden to those few students they capture and who are able to pay. I have interacted with a number of former university students who have this money recovered. They are crying, Madam Speaker. The amounts that are recovered per month are huge. But if this was spread to everybody who got a loan and is working, the money would have actually been spread more and they would have recovered more money. The system, again, does not capture those who are in the informal sector. Sometimes people who are in the informal sector make more money than those who are working. They will use the knowledge they got from these degrees by getting loans, but we can't capture them. Because that's why one was talking to say we should use technology in tracking up these students. How can we fail to track these students when they are living in the country? We should be able to track them. And so because we don't recover from these other students, we give a burden to those 6% that we are able to recover. And if you look at the money, from so much money we give, we recover very little. If any system is to be sustainable, it means your recovery method must at least reach 50% and above. But not whereby it is below 50%, it is below 20%, then basically it's as good as no recovery at all. So I think there is need to improve on that aspect so that as we recover the money, more students can benefit. The idea of not insuring, I've seen in modern countries, whenever you get a loan, it's insured. It's only here where people can get loans and it's not insured. Now we have seen here that quite a number of students died. And the amount that is written in this report is colossal. They died and we couldn't get anything. You can't recover. They are gone. But if these loans were insured, the loan board would have had money recovered and pay more students. So when you are dealing with the taxpayers' money, which you are giving to people, you must make sure that you take the necessary steps to make sure that this money is sustainable and can be given back. May we ask now the Minister of Education to make sure that all the loans that are gotten from this loan board are insured. You don't pay a lot of money for insurance. We insure our cars, we insure our houses. Why can't these loans be insured? And once you insure them, then it means that money you will get from the insurance, you can put it back to take that poor student, the member of Parliament, Honorable Zulu, would want his clients to get. Now, we have talked about the recovery method, which is still very primitive, and it needs to change. Also, when it comes to choosing of the vulnerable people, the Minister of Social Welfare is also a culprit of that. They are failing in the social cash transfer, in most cases, to give the correct people. So they are not actually the right institution as of now. We need another system that will determine the vulnerable people so that they really can benefit from this. Otherwise, what we are using now, we just go there. It's the same people that are okay, that are getting what? Benefits from this. So I think we need to change. Maybe use what CDF is using, where every child will go to his or her ward in the village to confirm that, no, this child comes from this village, we know the parents, they are poor, and so forth. And then that way, we'll be really able to get the vulnerable children. But the method they are using now is also vulnerable. And therefore, anyone can go there and get the documents and pretend they are vulnerable. Even the use of using the address is not very adequate. People have known it now, that you don't use an address from Lusaka. If you use an address from Lusaka, you will not get 100% bursary. So they use addresses of places where they don't live. And they will go and check and get the names. So this equally has to change. Sensitization, Madam Speaker, is a big problem. People in constituencies where we live don't know how this works. If they have no relative, no friend from the university to tell them, they don't know. When these are advertised, they don't know. I receive numerous people in my constituency office, always asking, and even us as Member of Parliament, we are not given the information so that we can tell our people accurately on what is happening when the advertisement is being done. So I think their sensitization method should be improved and catch as many people as possible. And that way, it will make sense. It has also been said the investment. They have no idea what to invest in this money. And that's why I said the restructure must be redone. There is need for this part of this money to be reinvested so that that profit that comes can benefit more students. With these few words, Madam Speaker, I would like to say thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to add my voice on behalf of the people of Chama North. But first and foremost, I want to thank the mover of this particular motion and also the seconder for the work well done. Madam Speaker, I fully support the adoption of this particular report on loans, on students' loans and also scholarship. Madam Speaker, education is the best equalizer. It is the effective vehicle of creating wealth at household level and eradicating poverty. So that's why it is very, very important that we must attach great importance to the education sector if our country has to move forward. As other debaters have mentioned, I think we need to review the composition of this particular board, the Higher Education Loans and Scholarship Board, so that it is representative, because the committee notes that there is no transparency in the way these loans are awarded to these deserving students. So my appeal to the Ministry of Education that I think we need to review the composition so that we can even include people from the three mother bodies, three church mother bodies, so that we can enhance transparency and accountability in the way these loans are awarded. Coming from a rural constituency, it is very sad, Madam Speaker, that the rural areas are disadvantaged. As other speakers have noted, that the criteria which is being used to say those who get 6 points automatically they qualify, those who get 7 points, you find that most of these students who get 6 points are coming from urban areas. Mpelembe Secondary School, David Kaunda, Hillcrest, and most of these are coming from these elite schools. And for a rural child where there's no electricity, for that rural child to get 8 points, I feel that that child is even far much better than that person in an urban area who is able to get 6 points, because these people in urban areas have got facilities. So I think there's need that we must review this criteria. You find that a lot of people, especially in rural areas, who are performing exceptionally very well, but they can't manage to access these particular loans. And I think there must be punitive measures which must be meted against officers if they will be found wanting of doing favoritism, so that that can serve as a deterrent. On publicity, Madam Speaker, I totally agree that in rural areas in Chama, in Katangalika, where can someone access a newspaper for them to access this information? So that's why it is important that the Ministry of Education, through the board, must be able to up the publicity mechanism. We have got community radio stations in almost all rural districts. So I think it is important that we must use these radio stations, because not many of our people are able to access these newspapers. We also have offices of the district education board secretaries. I feel that these also can be empowered to ensure that they go around the district and sensitize our people on the criteria used for them to access this facility. Inadequate resources, not enough resource envelope. I think education must not be treated as an expense. Education must be treated as an investment. There is no country which has developed without investing more in education. So if we are going to be looking at the cost aspect, then we are missing it as a country. I think many countries which have developed today in terms of technology, science and technology, is because they have invested very much in education. The Asian tigers, Singapore, Malaysia, and all these countries, they have invested heavily in education. So that's why today they have attained high levels of development. Madam Speaker, I also call for an increased budgetary allocation towards this particular board. Since now we have got debt restructuring, I think now we have got a breathing space and ensure that more resources must be allocated for these loans, students' loans, and also scholarships. That is the only way we are going to ensure that many of our people will be able to access this facility. It is very sad. I think we had one student, a lady at the University of Zambia, who committed suicide because this student was not awarded the bursaries. It's a very, very sad development. So you can see that people attaches education, they have attached to education, given it premium. So I think it is important that we must do that. I also want to encourage, I think, the ministry to ensure that instead of just relying on money from the government, I think there's need that the government must provide incentive to the private sector, so that the private sector can be able actually to contribute to this particular basket by giving them tax incentives. That way, we are going to increase the resource envelope, I think, in this particular board. Recoveries, the committees, according to the Auditor General, very poor recovery. I think we must put in place radical measures to ensure that we increase the recovery period. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, it's sad that our board has no investment policy. It's very, very sad, and that's why it is important that as we appoint members on these boards, let's appoint people who have got a business background, people who are able to come up with ideas to grow that particular basket. Otherwise, we shall be lamenting year in, out. So with these few remarks, Madam Speaker, I say I support the adoption of this report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to apologize to the honorable members that have indicated to debate. We still have a lot of bills that are supposed to be covered. So I'll straight away go to the Minister for Southern Province, then the Honorable Minister, the Acting Minister of Education, and then the Chairperson will wind up debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity that I may add a voice and ventilate on the motion which is on the floor of this House. And I must declare interest that I'm partisan on this matter because, like my colleague here, as former president of UNZASU, as a member of the Senate of the University of Zambia, and also as a member of the University Council of Zambia for 5 years, I attach great importance to issues to do with student welfare. Let me therefore begin on this note, Madam Speaker, through you, using the platform of the motion on the floor of the House, to congratulate His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, and his administration for walking the talk, for ensuring that the electoral commitment and or promise to retain meal allowances for students in public universities has been actualized. I recall, Madam Speaker, on the floor of this House, moving a motion urging the Patriotic Front not to do away with meal allowances. But you know them, these people. They went ahead to remove meal allowances.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Minister, please avoid debating ourselves. This is a rule of the House. You may continue with that guide.
Thank you for the guidance, Madam Speaker. The former ruling party, no, not these are my colleagues, I can't talk about them, but the former administration, you know them. Even if you told them things that were right, provided it was coming from the opposition, they did something else. And I'm happy that this administration of President Hakainde Hichilema is a listening government. So, as somebody who is interested in student welfare, I'm ecstatic that students now have meal allowances. This is what any reasonable and sensible government should do, to look after the welfare of the young people, because that is the bedrock of Zambia's future. That is necessary for the next parliament of Zambia. We must take care of them. So, I'm happy. And we have been justified that we stood on the right side of history. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I want to indicate, in line with the findings of this particular report, that I have always had this feeling that we can do better as a people. In the past, when you talk about the student loan scheme, Madam Speaker, particularly to do with scholarships to go and study abroad, they were a preserve of those who were politically connected regardless of qualification, bad behavior. And I'm happy that with this new administration of the new dawn, the transparency which the members have lamented on the floor of this House is being addressed. This is how it should be. Why should it be that you can have the brains, but if your uncle is not a minister or somebody high-ranking in government, you cannot be sponsored to go and study in Europe? You can only be sponsored to go and study in Europe if you are politically connected. That behavior was very bad. And I'm happy that this new administration, Madam Speaker, is a very transparent government. And we should never look back to those dark days when, for you to determine your future, you have to be politically aligned and not intellectually endowed. A lot of people missed out on opportunity because they were not connected to politicians. You have seen now, Madam Speaker, even job recruitments now, there is nothing like you are connected to a politician. That is how it should be. It should be based on merit. So even getting a scholarship should be based on merit. That is the government the people of Zambia wanted.
There's an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, what is your point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to raise this point of order. Pursuant to Standing Order 65, 1A. Madam Speaker, the report is very clear, and the motion has been moved by the chairperson of the committee and the seconder are very clear. The contents of the report are very clear. I do sympathize with my honorable able colleague, minister from the southern province, who being equal, should have been articulating government policy from that side, other than putting him in the...
What is the point of order?
Because he's navigating, madam, between articulating government policy as the provincial minister and also debate. You might not understand those things. We are talking from experience.
Honorable members, we are behind time. The honorable member on the floor, can you please go straight to the point of order?
Madam Speaker, is the honorable minister in order not to confine himself to the report and the subject matter which is under debate and decide to start politicking as usual in his own interesting way? Is in order, Madam Speaker, to take that route of debate. I seek your serious guidance.
Thank you so much. I think the only portion where the Honorable Minister for Southern Province was out of order was when he brought the issue of recruitment. Because in the report, there's nowhere where it talks about the recruitment that took place. So my guide to the Honorable Minister, please let us stick to the report, which is straightforward. It's talking about higher education loans and scholarship board in Zambia between 2017 to 2020. With that guide, Honorable Minister, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for your wise guidance. And let me move on to my next point, Madam Speaker, to indicate that my colleague here has lamented the size of this fund, that it needs to be expanded. And I totally agree with him that that fund needs to be expanded in order to be more inclusive, meaning bringing on board more beneficiaries. And it is because of that, Madam Speaker, why you need prudent leadership in the management of national affairs, particularly national resources. And that is why we have a president who insists on prudent utilization of public resources so that you can be able to create fiscal headroom to invest in critical sectors such as the education sector. So those who believe that this needs to be expanded, this fund, your answer is very clear. You know who to support. You have to support a prudent leader, a prudent president, one who ensures that public resources do not end up in the hands of a few people telling people to say tantamen. You need public resources to benefit the public. You need public resources to benefit the many young people out there, particularly those from vulnerable families. And that is why, Madam Speaker, every day when I wake up, I thank the people of Zambia for voting President HH and the new dawn, because with that, we have a new beginning of prudent utilization of public resources in this country so that more young people can be taken to school. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Acting Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to express my sincere gratitude for according me this opportunity to make a submission to support the adoption of the report by the Committee on Education, Science and Technology regarding the performance audit report of the Auditor General on the administration of student loans and scholarship by the Higher Education Loans and Scholarship Board in Zambia between 2017 and 2020, laid on the table of the House for the second session of the 13th National Assembly. And Madam Speaker, from the onset, I want to indicate that the concerns that have been raised by honorable members of Parliament are covered in my response or debate. Madam Speaker, allow me to thank the committee chairperson, Honorable Mr. Twambo Mutinta MP for Itezi parliamentary constituency, for ably moving this motion. In addition, I wish to extend my appreciation to the seconder of the motion.
Order, Honorable Minister. The motion was moved by the Honorable Member for Kasama Central. Thank you. Just for our records, thank you. Order, Honorable Members. Order.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the guidance. I withdraw Honorable Mutinta and also now the place that with
my honorable member for Kasama Central. Sorry for that mix-up, Madam Speaker. As I was saying I wish to extend my appreciation to the second of the motion and all honorable MPs for their contribution to the motion. Indeed, the report gives us an opportunity to conduct an introspect for taking collective measures to administer loans and scholarships for higher education to meet the national demands for human capital. Madam Speaker, we believe that human and social development is fundamental to inclusive development and is a catalytic ingredient to the transformation of the country. This includes addressing the vicious cycles of poverty, inequality, and vulnerability. It also entails providing equal opportunities for every citizen to develop to their full potential and effectively contribute to the development of the country. Madam Speaker, we acknowledge the committee's observations and recommendations set out hereunder based on the findings from the interactions with the stakeholders, both written and oral submissions, and from their experiences during the local and foreign committee tours. Madam Speaker, the Higher Education Loans and Scholarship Board, LSB, was established by the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Act No. 31 of 2016. LSB replaced the Bursaries Committee, which was established by Statutory Instrument No. 182 of 1973 of the Education Act, Cap 134 of the laws of Zambia. LSB has taken over the administration of student loans and scholarships from the Bursaries Committee. Madam Speaker, LSB was established with an additional mandate of sourcing and mobilizing funds, manage and administer student loans and scholarships to Zambians pursuing higher education in recognized institutions of higher learning. It also has the mandate to recover all mature loans disbursed since 2004. Madam Speaker, given these challenging effects, as highlighted in the committee's report, the government will continue to embark on stakeholder engagements to galvanize a collective effort and develop policies like investment policy, resource mobilization policy, and other strategies which will generate additional resources to support the implementation of the higher education loans and scholarship scheme. In addition, the government will continue to improve budgetary allocation to the scheme for more students to access loans and scholarships for both public and private universities. Madam Speaker, the investment plan has since been developed to help with the mobilization of resources for the sustainability of the LSB Fund. In addition, LSB's key job positions pertaining to investment and fund management are filled, including fund manager, investment manager, and other office orders to spearhead loan management and recoveries. Madam Speaker, the government agrees to the call to increase investment in these structural and systems reforms, which will strengthen the administration and management of the loans and the scholarship scheme facility. Madam Speaker, the government has instituted a research on how best a means testing mechanism to determine the vulnerability of the loan applicants can be approved or improved to accommodate adequate features, including selection criteria, automation, and integration into the higher education integrated information management scheme. This is aimed at automatic granting of funding levels in relation to household vulnerability using a well-coordinated and integrated database. In addition, government has made strides in the implementation of the higher education students' financing management system to provide the institution with a minimum viable digital product that will ease student application, registration, screening, and other related activities. Madam Speaker, reconciliation exercises, for instance, is now done annually with payroll management establishment control PMIC to normalize deductions for the beneficiaries employed in the civil service who were underpaying the loan. These works are ongoing and in progress to fully operationalize the integration of systems between LSB and its stakeholders, including higher education institutions and the Examination Council of Zambia for improved collaborating engagements. Madam Speaker, these system innovations will further enhance and aid the tracking systems to ensure that former beneficiaries are traceable and monitored, and that they pay back the loans without fail. The LSB has partnered with key stakeholders through MOUs and other modalities to ensure that the loan recoveries are effective and efficient. These backers include ZICTA, ZRA, PACRA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and NAPSA. Madam Speaker, you may wish to note that the government has already taken steps to ensure that the legal framework is strengthened to mandate the LSB to carry out its functions more efficiently. As I speak, the amendment of the LSB Act number 31 of 2016 is at Cabinet seeking approval to commence the process. This will create a platform for managing the loans and scholarship scheme effectively and efficiently, which will result in timely publication of names of awarded students, at least 1 month before the respective higher education institutions opens. In addition, it will create a platform to consider the development of an harmonized and well-coordinated learning calendar among the higher education institutions. Further, this will be the basis for upholding and strengthening transparency and providing clear guidelines that will guide the applicants to make informed decisions regarding the award of sponsorship categories of 100%, 75%, and 50%. Madam Speaker, the government will continue to benchmark and share notes with neighboring countries on best practices in the implementation of loans and scholarship scheme. In the same spirit, the LSB has since adopted and ensured, and we need to listen to this. In the same spirit, the LSB has since adopted and insured all student loans against risks, including death, permanent and total disability as well as mental insanity with Zambia State Insurance Corporation Limited, ZISC, and Madison General Insurance Companies. Madam Speaker, the LSB will continue to invest in research to improve the running of the institution and be able to make informed investment decisions to achieve greater institutional visibility and reputation. It will also help to inform policies and practices that can improve the quality of student experience. It is also for this reason that the LSB will consider conducting a cost-benefit analysis before deciding whether to train locally or abroad. Madam Speaker, we agree to undertake a robust sensitization and awareness programs on the administration and management of loans and scholarships facility, especially for the secondary schools. In addition, LSB will continue to coordinate with other key stakeholders in the dissemination of the information regarding access to student loans and scholarships using existing systems and other platforms. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, government will ensure that LSB remains a dynamic, visible, and accessible provider of loans and scholarships for higher education to eligible Zambians in a manner that will promote integrity, accountability, equity, transparency, teamwork, and professionalism. With a population of Zambia comprising about 82% youth, the board expects that the number of students seeking help in financing their higher education will increase in the coming years. Based on this, the board commits itself to providing student loans to Zambians pursuing higher education through sufficient mobilization and cautious management of resources.
Your time
With-
is up.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kasama Central wind-up debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to thank the seconder of the motion, Honorable Tyson Simzingili. I also wish to thank all the members that have ably debated and supported this motion on the floor of this House. And these include Honorable Christopher Kangombe Kampinsa, Honorable Menyani Zulu Nyimba, Honorable Harry Kamboni Kalomo Central, Honorable Yotam Mutayachalo Chama North, Honorable Cornelius Mitwa, our Southern Province Minister, and I also finally wish to thank the Honorable Acting Minister of Education for the assurances that are contained in his policy statement. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Education, Science and Technology on the performance audit report of the Auditor General on the administration of student loans and scholarships by the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board in Zambia between 2017 to 2020 for the second session of the 13th Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 27th June 2023. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it, and the question is resolved in the affirmative. The clerk will now read the orders of the day.
The National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2023, second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the National Prosecution Authority Act number 34 of 2010 provides for the establishment of the Board of the National Prosecution Authority appointed by the Minister. The National Prosecution Authority currently does not provide for functions of the Board of the Authority. The National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill 2023 therefore seeks to amend the National Prosecution Authority Act number 34 of 2010 in order to provide for the functions of the Board of the Authority and revise the composition of the Board in order to include members on the Board from the private sector to create effective corporate governance and align with international best practice. Madam Speaker, the current composition of the Board of the Authority is largely composed of employees in the civil service with the exception of 2 members who are appointed by the Minister. The composition of the Board of the Authority does not promote the requirement for diversity in the selection of board members as per the New Dawn government policy on board composition. Additionally, the current composition of the Board of the Authority undermines the tenets of good corporate governance in the selection of board members. There is need, therefore, to streamline the members on the board who emanate from the civil service and include other key stakeholders and independent members with relevant expertise in prosecutorial matters. Further, there is need to remove the Director of Public Prosecutions as chairperson of the authority so as to align with international best practice on board management to ensure accountability and transparency. Madam Speaker, there must be a separation between the Chief Executive Officer of an institution and the chairperson of the Board of Directors. The removal of the DPP is not in conflict with the Constitution because the Constitution does not explicitly state that the DPP should be the chairperson of the board. The Constitution only recognizes the DPP as the head of the authority. The word head, according to Black's Law Dictionary, refers to a person responsible for an institution. From this definition, it is clear that the head of an institution is the chief executive officer and not necessarily the chairperson of the board. International best practice promotes the requirement that there must be a clearly defined separation of roles between a chief executive officer who has a role in the day-to-day running of affairs in an institution and the board of directors whose role is oversight and input in an institution. This ensures that there is transparency in the management of the institution as it meets its set objectives. The DPP has a role of being the head of the authority.
Order, Honorable Minister. As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for still watching Parliament Television. Business has been suspended for a 20-minute health break, and under consideration is the National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2023, which is up for second reading. And at the time business was being suspended, the Minister of Justice, Honorable Mnambe Haibe, was on the floor of the House giving details of the bill.
Yes, Taza, in the House has so far considered 3 questions for oral answer under Standing Order 74 and 1 committee report that was moved by Kasama Central Member of Parliament, Ms. Wangele Mwamba, urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on Education, Science and Technology on the performance audit report of the Auditor General on the administration of student loans and scholarships by the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board in Zambia between 2017 to 2020 for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 27th June 2023. And so this report was seconded by Gwembe Member of Parliament, Mr. Simzingidi, and this report has since been adopted. And so far, that is business that has been considered on the floor of the House. For now, we take a break. Remember, business of the House will resume at 17 hours. Keep watching Parliament Television. Good afternoon.
I am the current Member of Parliament for Chifuru constituency. I was elected in the last election in 2021, and I came in as the new Member of Parliament for Chifuru constituency, which is on the Copper Belt in Ndola district. I started my school way back on the Copper Belt. Later on, I was transferred to a boarding school in Northwestern Province, where I did my secondary school, junior secondary school at Kasempa Boys Secondary School. Then from there, I was selected to go and do my senior secondary school at Solwezi Technical Secondary School. Upon completion of my secondary education, I came to Ndola back to join my family. Then I started my tertiary studies at Northern Technical College, where I did my certificate in accounts and business studies. Later on, I did my diploma in accountancy. From there, I started pursuing SCCA. I did my SCCA up to the final stage. Then later on, I abandoned it to pursue a bachelor's in accountants and finance with Copperstone University, which I completed. And from there, I started working for Zamtel College. I worked at Zamtel College as a lecturer up to about 2016. That's when I started, that's when I thought I wanted to do a political career. Then I joined politics and contested the elections in 2016 under the UPND ticket. Then I could not pull through. However, I did not give up. I recontested in 2021 and won the seat for Chifuru, and I am the current Member of Parliament for Chifuru. Chifuru constituency is one of the 4 constituencies that are in Ndola district, namely Chifugu constituency, Bwanamkubwa, Kabushi, and Ndola Central. So Chifugu constituency is located on the northern part of Ndola. We border with the DRC and share boundaries with Kaflafuta, Ndola Central, and on the other side with Kafisa. So this is the most influential constituencies on the Copper Belt. It is a constituency that has produced the vice president, later who became president of this country in the name of Lady Patrick Mwanawasa. Started as a member of parliament for Chifugu, then he was appointed again as the vice president, and later on he became the Republican president of this country. So this constituency is a very, very influential constituency that should not be underrated. Who knows, anytime soon in future, it could just be a producer of another president. So Chifugu constituency is the engine of politics. The increment of CDF from 1.6 million to the current 28.3 million has brought change, particularly in my constituency. From 2022, when we received this money, we have performed tremendously, and as I stand here, I am a proud member of parliament who wants to brag that we are the best performing constituency in the country in terms of CDF utilization. We have used the CDF to the maximum extents and levels that development is unprecedented in Chifugu constituency. We have done, just in one calendar year CDF, we have performed, we have established and built a number of projects. Number one, we have done 3 clinics with maternity wing just in CDF for 2022. To Atasha Clinic and maternity wing, as I am talking now, the project is at 98%. They are just painting and cleaning in readiness for handover to the community. We have also done Kanyanje